Hello, I'm Joseph Dillard. In our video on IDL as a yoga, we learned that IDL is to be approached as a transpersonal practice and a sacred discipline. Yogas are best understood as something of central significance to who we are, who we will become, and the worth of our lives. Traditionally, yogas are not undertaken only for our self-development, but also for our children's children and for the good of humanity. Like all other yogas, IDL is approached with an attitude of dedication, persistence, consistency, and patience. In order to understand IDL as a dream yoga, we need to have a basic understanding of different states of consciousness. Let's get started. There are three states of consciousness: waking, dreaming, deep sleep, to which some add a fourth, the non-dual, called in Indian traditions turiya, which is claimed to be the state that is foundational and underlies the other three states of consciousness. We spend about 16 hours a day in the waking state, some 5 hours in the deep sleep state, and some 2.5 hours in the dream state. We don't spend any time in the fourth state unless we have near-death or mystical experiences or undertake yogas that objectify our awareness, develop witnessing, and generate lucidity in the dream state and stable access to delta brain patterns, meaning very slow CPS EEG, cycles per second, electroencephalographic readouts. If we live to be 80, we will have spent approximately 60 years of our life awake, 25 years deeply asleep, and an incredible 5 years of our lives dreaming. 5 years of our life is a lot of time to ignore or dismiss as irrelevant or unimportant, don't you think? To be active and aware in a state, yet to neither understand it nor remember most of it, challenges the very idea of who we are. There's now solid evidence that while the main physiological function of deep sleep is restorative, dreaming basically exists in mammals as a strategy for memory consolidation. When we dream, we are assimilating and integrating life experience in a metaphorical context. There are other important functions too, such as the maintenance of vigilance in a state of paradoxical wakefulness. Here is a chart to summarize the four states, their functions, what developmental stages they are believed to represent in the spiritual traditions of the East and much contemporary spirituality, and some of the traditional yogas that have been used to access them. The waking state has as a basic function external adaptation for species longevity. Its stage correlates are the body, the physiosphere, and our waking sense of who we are. Karma, hatha, and pranayama yogas are yogic correlates. The dreaming state has basic functions of assimilation and integration. Its stage correlates are the devotional identification with deity associated with the subtle state. Svapna, Bhakti, Milam, Tibetan deity yoga, and lucid dreaming are yogic correlates. We have also seen that deep sleep has regeneration as a basic function. In Eastern, esoteric, New Age, and the integral AQual of Ken Wilber, deep sleep is associated with the causal state, formlessness, and selflessness. Nidra is the traditional yoga of the deep sleep state. The non-dual or turiya is associated with transcendence and enlightenment, with stage correlates of samadhi, nirvana, and the integration of all states and stages. Jhana, kundalini, and pranayama again are yogic correlates. The assumptions in the above chart are based on the Vedas, Upanishads, Shankar's Advaita Vedanta, and Buddhist teachings. Also practices, particularly in Tibetan Mahayana traditions, and more recently in the transmission of Eastern worldviews to the West by Blavatsky and her followers, as well as Vivekananda, Yogananda, a host of Indian gurus and Tibetan lamas, and their Western interpreters, including Ken Wilber, Deepak Chopra, and Eckhart Tolle, to name just a few. Regarding deep sleep, the evidence is that far from being a state of blissful self-awareness and unification with all, our sense of self is normally completely absent in deep sleep, regressed to a primitive integration with physical and sensory awareness. IDL Dream Yoga honors and respects classical spiritual traditions while noting that they are based on a correlation of dream and deep sleep states with higher states of consciousness, subtle, causal, and non-dual. This is a correlation that lacks an evidential base outside of interior perception in mystical experiences of altered states of consciousness. The evidence is that dreaming is in the main a regressive prepersonal state which depicts a multiple identity prior to the development of a solid unified self-sense, but one in which transpersonal and creative breakthroughs can and do occur. It is not unusual for perspectives interviewed by IDL to demonstrate qualities, characteristics, and worldviews associated with energic, subtle, causal, and non-dual transpersonal states. Dreaming is not a superior state of consciousness to waking, but what it offers are vital subjective sources of objectivity. When you become dream characters, you access perspectives which are innate and which reveal the priorities of your life compass, showing you a path forward in your life. Therefore, regarding the prior chart, it is more accurate to read deep sleep, regeneration, complete subjectivity, Nidra Yoga. This means that instead of being associated with a high transpersonal stage, the causal, deep sleep is much more accurately associated with a complete loss of our sense of self. However, Nidra Yoga is a practice of bringing our sense of self into the deep sleep state, so it still applies. It is also therefore more accurate to read dreaming, assimilation, integration, prepersonal regression, and the same yogas. Traditional and popular formulations that associate dreaming with after-death states like Bardo's and transpersonal enlightenment do not fit the findings of scientific research, meaning that they are not the most likely understandings or explanations, nor are they backed up by evidence that is not personal and subjective. If one wants to dive more deeply into why dreaming and deep sleep are prepersonal and not transpersonal, I recommend Mark Edwards' essay, An Alternative View on States, at integralworld.net. Regarding the non-dual, you'll find some perspectives you will interview will demonstrate states of non-duality. The more you practice becoming such perspectives, the more non-dual awareness becomes an element of your waking perception. Therefore, IDL views much lighter and less profound access to non-dual awareness through interviewing as a more realistic path than striving for enlightenment through meditation. The objectified awareness accessed in meditation is powerful and important, but abstract. Perspectives and states associated with our daily life issues and accessed by way of integral deep listening interviewing are less powerful and more subjective, but relate the transpersonal practically to our everyday lives in a concrete way that meditation does not. Regardless of how enlightened you become, you will still be subjectively enmeshed in your worldview, assumptions, and expectations. You need a methodology like IDL to objectify those. While dreaming and deep sleep are deeply prepersonal states, IDL uses dreaming to awaken and amplify transpersonal states in our awareness. Do you have questions or comments? Let us know how we can help by sharing your interests in the section below this video or at Friends of IDL on Facebook. You'll find more information on Dream Yogas at dreamyoga.com and more on IDL interviewing at integraldeeplistening.com, as well as the IDL video curricula. Thanks for watching. See you next time.